young, dumb American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing, this flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defined, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as the young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody would ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody would ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm high like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess so lit, I guess so bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another wonderful Tuesday with Sports Nonsense and Whiskey. Hanging with the boy, Pinky. Other guy had some business, personal stuff he wanted to take care of this evening. So, Robert, Godspeed to you and everything you take care of tonight. We'll hold it down for you until next week. Pinky, I got you tonight, baby. What's going on? How you doing?
Oh man, just me and you, partner. Cheers. I need to let this thin out a little bit more. I brought it up. I brought this is a Henry McKenna single bottle, aged 10 years, and I got this from Blea for my birthday. And it's 100 proof. And there are nights that I drink. Maybe it's because I've had a couple drinks before I get into it. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then there's nights I'm like, oh, man, that needs to thin out some.
I mean, it could be some of that for sure. No doubt. That could be part of the situation.
So that one is tough. Tough. So, yeah, Robert, we miss you. We love you. Robert did want us to go ahead and throw a shout out to the Oscars this weekend.
Sunday night.
Yeah, I don't watch the Oscars myself unless there's just nothing else on. I have learned over time. It really just shows me all the movies I have not seen and all the movies I probably don't want to see as well. A lot of them that are on there.
There is definitely some truth to that. And then you hear a lot of movies that you have no idea, you never even heard of them, no idea when they came out or where they're on, how are these awards even happening. But I grew up, my family used to watch it. As a kid, my mom and dad would turn it on that Sunday night. We'd all kind of sit down and hang out and watch it. Never did any like Oscar parties or anything like that. So not crazy about it, but like I'll have it on the background while I got a game going or something and see, best actor, best actress, best supporting movie of the year, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of fun. Cinematography, I've always liked to see who gets that. Best score, that's kind of always fun. So there's some that I do enjoy seeing what happens, but overall, it's not something where, you go to one of the Oscar parties, people dress up and have a night about it. That might be fun, like a Super Bowl party for Hollywood. So I could see the appeal. Just not something I've ever done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some people get really into it. I just like, Again, it highlights a lot of movies that I have not seen and probably won't see. So, there we go. There we go. Trying to find a good mock draft simulator for us. So
Okay. Well,
We'll
as
find that
Pinky's
right now.
doing that, I'll tell the people. We went heavy basketball last week with our guest Greg. We didn't even touch on probably half the stuff that I would love to just dissect and get into. So it was good time, but spent most of the week on just NBA. So this week, Pinky wants to do a little wrestling talk. My man just can't get over losing the belt, so he's got to pass his time somehow. And then I still just seeing your face when you realized it wasn't lost was worth all of it, man.
I hate all of you. All of you.
And then we're gonna do a little QB carousel conversation, and then we're gonna do our first mock draft. Usually we only do one, and we do it after free agency. But we always are doing multiple behind the scenes talking to each other. And we're like, why not do a couple? Mel Kiper does more than one. Daniel Jeremiah does more than one. Why can't Pinky and Caleb at Sports Nonsense and Whiskey do more than one? So
how Pinky feels today on February 25th will be completely different than Pinky feels March
April 29th,
14th or whatever.
Isn't it April 29th?
Well, like right after free agency.
Yeah.
You know, we got the combine, we got free agency, we've got more data,
Right.
And that's where we can start to get a little bit better of a feel for things. Where heck, I mean, Matthew Stafford could get traded this week.
Yeah, we're about to talk about that. So easy. So yeah, that's gonna be the evening. Little WWE, little QB carousel, and then draft, and talk and dissect and discuss, and we'll go over our rules before the draft happens, just so people that watch this understand why and where and what we're doing. Try to give you reasoning as much as possible, but that doesn't usually matter. But we still do it, so we'll see what happens.
I do want that belt back this weekend. Just saying.
Yeah. We'll figure something out. I got you. You need it to take with you at worst case if I can't get there. So
my shoulder just feels like it's barren without it. When I sit there and watch and I'm yeeting and stuff, it feels better with the belt on you. I'm just saying.
Does it though? I mean, like if you're yeeting, shouldn't it feel better? With nothing there, wouldn't that feel more natural?
I get it. I did that yesterday. My son came home in the middle of he's typically goes to the gym after work, and he walks in the door and Jay was out, and I was like, yeet. I was yeeting with Pat, and he was just like, what are you doing, Father? And I was like, just go downstairs. It's fine.
If you can't get in this, just leave. Just walk away.
Let me do my thing.
Yeah, what's the problem here?
Let's see. Well, I'm glad that you watched Raw, at least off and on.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts from last night? I mean, there were two matches I thought that were pretty good, and everything else was kind of eh. But there was, there's three things I would probably.
I will say there are storylines being built at this moment that I feel like might draw me back in completely. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm really starting to like Dirty Dom and his heel take.
So
I still don't like something about the smirk and the stash, man. Like I'm starting to get behind it.
So I can't get behind it because he looks like a douche. I can't get behind it. But I will say the more I watch him, the more I respect his wrestling ability. Like that kid can wrestle.
Sure.
They've got him playing kind of he doesn't win very often. This I don't even. The Judgment Day storyline's done. Like, they need to break that. They're going to break that up here soon.
Well, that's what it looks like is happening. The way everything's going right now. I like Dom is like. He's almost like a Shane O'Mac. And I say that in the sense that, like, when he wrestles, he may not always win, but they're going to give you a show of some kind. Now, Shane O'Mac was usually, like, high flying and these crazy top rope maneuvers and things of that nature.
Shane O'Mac
just putting his body on the line, which was crazy.
Shane O'Mac was literally the epic example of a son trying to get his father's approval.
Oh, yeah. You want to take it a step further, though? Like, Logan Paul should go watch Shane O'Mac because that's really who he is. He's Shane O'Mac 2.0.
That's pretty good. I like that.
So he should go study Shane O'Mac and his matches and all his speaking moments, if you will. And I think that could elevate Logan Paul to the next level. But aside from that, I like Dom. I say that he gives you a story, like something to watch, a show, because while Dom doesn't do it like Shane O'Mac did, he still does things while you're watching that you're like, all right, what's next? All right, what are we gonna do next? And then he can do some pretty athletic things. He can throw the 619 and things of that nature where you're like, all right, this guy actually has some skill too. So he may not be the best. He's definitely not the worst. And the way he plays the heel is well done. And I'm liking the progression of what they've got him doing now and kind of being the puppeteer almost of certain things. And it's intriguing. I'm intrigued.
See, he's still a douche, but I think he does a good job of putting on a show. So I'll give him that. Logan Paul and CM Punk had a pretty good intro to Raw last night.
Did not see that.
You didn't see that one? Logan Paul came out. Man, he is he is so good at getting the crowd going. And again, they're booing him. And again, if they boo you or cheer you, you're in. You got them.
Oh.
Like, it's when they don't do anything that you're probably going to be looking for another job, right?
For sure.
So he does that better than anybody right now. Like, he is. There's not many heels right now, like true heels. There's kind of like they're kind of a baby face anti-hero kind of guy. Like Damian Priest was a heel for a little bit, but now he's definitely a baby face. And then, I mean, I'm looking down the list. I'm like, Finn Balor's a heel, but like, there's not really a lot of those like true guys that you just like love to hate. I guess Gunther's a heel.
Gunther's kind of a heel. I'm not a Gunther guy, so I don't really have.
I love Gunther, so I'm in it.
I think one of the guys that could really make a true, insanely good heel if they really wanted to would be Drew McIntyre. But they keep doing this story with him where it's like, I'm just doing this because it's the right thing to do and the people will see it in the end. Like, I'm not really a bad guy. And then he's like, nah, I'm a good guy and the people love me because I'm the underdog. Like, they don't let him go truly all the way in one way or the other. They keep kind of sitting right in the middle, kind of.
Kevin Owens is a heel right now.
That was what I was just going to say. I was going to say, now I would say the true, like the most heel in there right now would be KO. And the storyline they're doing with, but
there's still too many fans that love Kevin Owens
because that's
Kevin
why
Owens has done for so long.
I mean, I think it's hilarious that they're calling it unsanctioned and then they're sanctioning it during Elimination Chamber for the fans to watch. But okay, the outcome of this unsanctioned match with this boy and how that falls.
Dude, did you see his promo over the weekend?
No.
I thought I sent the video.
Oh, that one? Yeah.
Where he's outside his house cutting his promo, and then you see Sami Zayn's family and everything. Yeah. I went, when he got done cutting that promo, he walked in and had a beer.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. No doubt. Are you kidding me?
So the Logan Paul CM Punk thing was pretty good. Logan Paul does a great job. I think he's actually the true heel right now. Of like most people dislike him, I love him because he always puts on a great match.
See,
so I root for Logan Paul.
I don't consider him an actual heel yet because as much as you and I think he's got a lot of potential and his matches are always good, like they just are. I think too many people hate him just because he's Logan Paul. Like he's the internet guy, you know what I mean? Like the podcaster, the teeny bopper. So like, I don't think he's really a heel yet because too many people just hate him because of that, not because he's a heel. You know what I mean? Like the character.
I think he gets a lot of hate from some of the wrestling community based on like, being the internet guy, being an entertainer, coming into wrestling and becoming a wrestler now. And I think they still see him as, you can't do this. You're a new guy, all this stuff. And I'll tell you, man, I listened to Michael Cole. Michael Cole was on his Logan Paul's podcast. And Michael Cole said, in my 27 or 28 years, he has never seen someone come into the business and everything just like he's got it. He's got everything.
He does. And let's take it a step further. Like even dudes inside the building, sitting in the back watching. If you're mad that your spot's getting taken and you don't feel this guy deserves it, then go do the same shit he's doing when he's in the ring. I mean, that first, what was it, WrestleMania like 2 years ago where he flew basically all the way across the
Royal
ring? Royal Rumble. Thank you.
With Ricochet.
Like that was absurd. Nobody else is doing that.
Well, this year at the Royal Rumble, when he jumped from the ring over to the announce table.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's what you don't see dudes doing that still right now. He's doing things that nobody else is doing. So be mad all you want, but he's not just wrestling. He's putting on one hell of a show while he's doing it. So he may not be the most technical. He may not know all the little ins and outs of the business yet. But if he wants to keep learning, like this dude's just going to keep climbing because he did come in and just make a big splash and it seemed to fit in really well. Say what you want, but it's true.
So I wanted to talk the CM Punk stuff and Logan Paul, but you didn't watch it, so we won't talk that much. My boy Penta came on and put another great show on, and I liked what they did. Did you see the finish of the match?
Didn't see Penta last night either.
Oh man, you got to watch Penta. The Penta match is really good. It's a 3-way: him, Ludwig, and Pete Dunne, and it's fantastic. It was a really good match between all three of them. Penta gets in trouble, then Penta puts on his finisher, and then Penta got hit and then rolled out the ring. While he's out the ring, Ludwig throws his finisher on Pete Dunne in 1, 2, 3. So Penta didn't win that match, but he didn't lose it either. So his record's still 4-0, but really well done. Again, it's very easy to see. He's likable. The fans love him. His intro's dope. His moves are great. Everything about Penta. I'm just digging it, man. I am loving Penta. So he might not be your cup of tea. I don't know, but I love that guy.
I don't have a feeling one way or the other on him right now.
When I watch his matches, man, I get hyped. I get just stoked.
We'll see what happens.
And then the women's match, the tag team match, Liv and Raquel versus Bianca and Naomi. That was a really, really good match.
Yeah, that was solid. I saw that.
That was a really good match. They had the Lyra, Valkyria.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean,
and those right. Maybe it's me, but those girls are so tiny. They're good wrestlers, but they're just so tiny that I'm just like, I don't see them playing with the big dogs. That's just me.
Kind of agree.
I mean, for me, like Liv is probably the smallest woman that plays with the big dogs. I'm sorry. In real life, Nia Jax would demolish her. Rhea would demolish her. Like,
probably.
Like that's one of those things when you see her in the ring with these other gigantic women,
I mean, but it's no different than Shawn Michaels going out there and winning the belt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you're being honest with yourself, like it happens in the men's side all the time too. I mean, Rey Mysterio won championships.
That was a really good match. The crowd was chanting, you know, this is awesome, well deserved. Liv and Raquel got the job done. I do think that's going to lead to. I think we're going to find out at Elimination Chamber who took Jade Cargill out.
Okay.
And it's not Liv and Raquel. I think Naomi took Jade Cargill out.
I mean, I've been waiting for that to happen for a long time, so it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit.
So, because now they don't have the belts, they'll both be in Elimination Chamber, and I do think they're gonna make Bianca go over and win Elimination Chamber.
Oh, gross!
To face Rhea again. I don't like it. I just think that's what's gonna happen. So.
That would be gross. That would be unfortunate.
I don't think Alexa's ready yet. I don't think they're going to push her like that yet. Liv Morgan, she's already kind of had her world championship run. Who else is in it? Raquel Rodriguez, she's not ready yet, right? This is a good story. And maybe she gets a 1-2-3 on somebody and eliminates somebody, but she's not. I don't think she's
just like an enforcer right now. I'd be surprised if she gets pushed above that.
Or not. Wait, who did I? Roxanne Perez. I'm sorry, wrong person. Roxanne Perez is in it. She's pretty much coming over from NXT now, and I think she's on the main. I think she's pretty much going to be on the main roster going forward. So yeah, I don't think she's going to win it, and I think Nia's not in it because she's in the match against Trish and Tiff. So I can't remember who else is in there, but Bianca and Naomi. I think that Bianca is going to pull it out, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of hers, as you know. I'd rather see Naomi. I like Naomi. I think Naomi's a great wrestler. So that's me. The one thing I guess I will
still think Alexa Bliss is going to win Elimination Chamber.
I don't think so. I just don't think so.
It's going to look like somebody else wins, and then she's going to kind of come back out of nowhere and
I just think it's
show everybody why it's her thing.
I guess I shouldn't say it's too soon for the push because again, Charlotte comes out, wins Rumble, which I didn't agree with either.
No, that was lame. But a lot of people don't like Jey Uso winning, and I loved that. I thought.
I think that was amazing.
You're always going to have, and that's part of it. If you're doing a good storyline, you're going to have people who don't like that and want somebody else.
What is it that you want?
Not be happy, and that's what you want.
You want people talking about it. Either they love it or they hate it, right? That's what you want.
What's the finishing move that Alexa Bliss has? The Aunt Jemima, the Aunt Pearl,
I can't.
Sister Hazel.
So I haven't watched her in so long.
You know what I'm talking about? It's the same one.
I can see it, but
it's the same one that. And now I'm drawing a blank. Who was the dude? We unfortunately lost him.
Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt. Yeah. I liked that storyline. Her and Bray Wyatt and all of that was a little dark for even the Attitude Era. Possibly they were exploring some stuff there.
I'll have to get you all the way back in so that we can have deeper conversations.
Yeah, we'll see.
Did you catch The Rock from SmackDown?
Yes.
Okay, so this has been I would say almost every wrestling podcast has talked about this. Do you have a problem with The Rock's press conference after SmackDown? Did you catch the press conference at all?
I think I've gotten enough of it to just basically be like, it's at this point, dude, like I'm honestly torn between liking and disliking The Rock. And I think it's because he's breaking character or persona or storyline constantly when he's in the ring or when he's in a press conference or just talking online. Like he's a heel and then he's like reminiscing and going down memory lane and just really talking to the fans like a good dude who's Maui or something. And like, then he's back to the heel and then he's that, but now I'm a real dude again. I'm just The Rock. I'm Dwayne Johnson, and then it's
I
like
loved-
I'm Rock Stone. I hate everybody, and why are you even here? Are
So-
you gonna wrestle? Are you actually gonna be in a match of significance that we actually gonna see you be a true wrestler, or are you gonna come out looking like Hulk Hogan or something?
He's never going to be a true wrestler again. It's all going to be brawl.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, even a good brawl where he gets involved in some way could be done if done right. It could be well.
Here's my problem with it.
I don't know.
His conversation with Cody was awesome because he does come out as the heel, but during that conversation, he's being buddy with Cody. We're friends. Our moms are friends. We drank tequila after WrestleMania 40 after we put on a great show. Like he's being buddy because he wants Cody to be his corporate champion, right? So he's being nice to Cody. I love that he's being nice to Cody and everything, and then he tells a fan he's going to knock the syphilis off his mouth or something. I love that part. So he's going back and forth in that character, which I thought actually was done really well. Because it was putting on an inviting, I'm the boss, but I'm being kind and inviting because I want you to come join me, right? I want you to be my corporate champion. My issue I had is in the press conference, he's being Dwayne Johnson. And the way that he's talking about everything, he's really breaking kayfabe. He's pulling the curtain open for folks, and that's not the audience that you need to do that. I mean, it's the local media because they were excited that they're getting WrestleMania 42. So like it, I have an issue with what he was doing there because I feel like, and I almost like, why did he do a press conference? I mean, some of the things he said during the press conference, like, yeah, we're coming back to New Orleans because New Orleans has always supported us. We've even back in the 80s, we've had great crowds in New Orleans. Like he's talking good about the city. But then he didn't need to talk about him and Cody and all, like he didn't need to go there, or he needed to go back to Final Boss character while he's doing it.
He's just pulling the curtain back too much. There's too much pulling back the curtain constantly and the switching between the characters. I'm just not really feeling it. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, that's part of the whole like that.
Now,
him being in the ring and being part of the storyline could have ended a year ago, and they could have done it really well, wrapped up a bunch of stuff, and started fresh for Netflix, and they chose not to do any of that. So we'll see.
I mean, we've got a couple things. Hopefully, a couple things will be ironed out at Elimination Chamber, right? And I'm excited for Elimination Chamber. We've got the men's Elimination Chamber might be the most stacked we've ever seen.
There's going to be some names in there for sure.
All 6 dudes have a legitimate shot at winning. And if any of them won, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, it makes sense. So it's pretty excited about that. So looking forward to Saturday. Hopefully I'll see you in my belt Saturday, 5 to 8. Starts at 5, probably should be over about 8. If you can work the pass out for that.
Yeah, it's a rough time. Rough time of day to.
It is a Saturday though, so
Yeah,
the kids are up a little late. It's okay.
See what happens.
They'll live. All right. QB carousel. And hopefully we start to get a little bit of clarity to this, because I think this is one of the things that the dominoes need to start falling. Some teams will need to have the dominoes figured out before the draft. The word is,
you absolutely. I mean, everybody would like to have
most
whatever they need to do before you want to go get the free agents. You want the free agents, and then draft who you want to draft. Like everybody's got a plan going into free agency that they'd like to execute. That you just hope you're able to execute it to go forward with your next part of the plan.
What is the most? What would you say the biggest slogan for draft season is?
Hope springs eternal.
Well, there's hope springs eternal, but what they call it, instead of draft season, they call it a different season. Lion season.
Oh,
everybody's
sure.
lying, right? We saw it last year. Peyton Manning, Sean Payton, Denver media. Everybody talked up J.J. McCarthy. Everyone talked up J.J. McCarthy. Broncos wanted Bo Nix. They talked up J.J. McCarthy to make people think that they wanted him. And that's, again, Minnesota jumps one spot to go get him.
I mean, you can say what you want, but he was always probably going to go ahead of you. So I still hate that story.
There was only one.
Ridiculous.
There's only one team. There was only one team. It was Minnesota. It was New York Jets, Minnesota, Denver. So if they wanted J.J. McCarthy all along, they could have Minnesota could have just stayed put at 11. They didn't have to give extra draft picks to go get him. They did because they thought
those are the only teams interested. Or like that. That's what I'm saying though. It's Lion season. There could have been another 3 or 4 teams who were saying they wanted nothing to do with it and were ready to pounce if the opportunity presented itself. So I don't buy any of that. I don't believe for a moment that they would have taken Bo Nix over J.J. McCarthy if both were on the board at the same time. I'm not saying they wouldn't have. I'm not saying Bo Nix wasn't on the top of their board. I'm just saying for them to just be like, we talked it up to make sure he went and we didn't have to worry about somebody taking Nix. Nobody was taking Nix ahead of you. Nobody. And nobody was trading up to take Nix. So for you to act like you were outsmarting the league with some move that was brilliant, it's a ridiculous story, Pinky. It's absolutely ridiculous.
They got a team to give up extra draft picks.
Did they? I don't think it was them. Again, there's so many things that you don't know. Minnesota could have heard something about Arizona trading away Kyler Murray and moving up to go get J.J. McCarthy. Like, to think it was the Broncos and what they did publicly that caused Minnesota to move up, I think is foolish.
It happened.
Minnesota moved up. The Broncos talked about it publicly. I don't think the two are intertwined in any way.
I disagree with that, but we disagree on a lot of things. So now, to go along with that topic, the media is pushing out the narrative that a lot of teams are not completely sold on the top 2 quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So that comes back to lying season. And do you think that's something that's actually true? Or is that a bunch of teams trying to get it out there to hopefully get those guys to fall?
No. I think when it's a perceived weak QB class, especially after what's happened with the last couple perceived weak QB classes and what happened at the top and how those guys weren't successful and what happened at the bottom and how those guys turned out to be maybe better than even some guys that were rated at the top for good draft classes. It's something that I think people are going to be a little bit more truthful about, even in Lions season, because they're going to try to move dominoes and twist stories on other things that actually matter to them. So if they really think the quarterbacks aren't good, they're going to be like, nah, they're not good. Like, I just don't think anybody's really high on them. And I'm a little.
We've watched a lot of Shedeur, and we've watched a lot of Cam Ward. I just think they both have enough question marks. They're not slam dunks as prospects.
Look, again, like, people kind of looked at the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young as maybe a weaker class. Not a weak, but weaker than some of the top classes we perceive to see here in recent years. And people were then trying to downgrade CJ Stroud because he got a bad, Wonderlic score and this, that, and the other. And a lot of people were starting to come out and say they didn't even have a first-round grade on him. I heard stuff about Deshaun Watson, and for those youngins who didn't get to see him play in his prime before shit hit the fan, the dude could ball. And he was, I still believe, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league at his prime. And he went late. And people weren't high on him. And that's even after he won a national championship at Clemson and balled out there. I just think that for whatever reason, people find reasons to downgrade that position more than others, especially when there isn't a lot of guys to talk about. And I think that's one of the other things that happens is when you only see a couple guys you think are going to go in the first round, they get nitpicked even more than when you're talking about 4 or 5 or 6 guys going in the first round.
I mean, that quarterback class, I feel like it's safe to say there was only 2. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I don't think Will Levis is going to make it.
No.
Oh,
and I'm not saying I disagree with that. I'm just saying.
I guess I forgot Anthony Richardson, which
still to be seen. I think
he's had moments. His first 2 drives against the Broncos, until the Broncos figured him out, were awesome.
He's just super raw, and either they're going to bite the bullet and give him an opportunity to learn and grow on the field, which is really the best way you're going to do it with somebody who doesn't have a lot of playing time, or you're going to say we made a mistake and you're going to move on, and then he's probably never going to develop because the likelihood of someone giving him a second chance after that usually doesn't happen in the NFL. I mean, shit, Justin Fields this offseason is looking for his 3rd opportunity. Right. Even if he stays with the Steelers, I would still count that as a 3rd opportunity because he got yanked after 6 games for Russell Wilson last year. So, like...
Right, and then Russell Wilson had a false positive.
Huh?
He had a false positive. He looked good for a couple games, and then the true Russell Wilson finished out the season.
Right, and that's why the other reason I said I don't understand why you make that switch and go back when Fields is winning you games. And while it may not have been a huge growth spurt, he still looked a little bit better every week, right? And that's all you can hope for. And I say all of that to get to Shedeur and Cam Ward. Cam Ward's bounced around 3 times now to where I think people discredit him because of that. They're trying to find ways to knock him down because he started at a small school. Then he went to Washington State. Then he went to Miami. Why didn't you just start at Miami?
I look at it as a great thing because he literally balled at all 3 schools.
You can look at it however you want. I'm just saying I think people are using that to help knock him down right now. Shedeur's kind of similar. And I think people are using that and his dad to knock him down right now. I still maintain nothing against Cam Ward. I think he could be really good, like Deshaun Watson-esque. I really do. Shedeur, I have a harder time putting a comp on. But I've said before, I think he moves in the pocket really well, like a Brady, a Manning. He has insanely good pocket presence and really accurate. And he doesn't have a weak arm. He just doesn't have, a cannon on him. And that's okay. He can make all the throws still.
I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't have a cannon. He does just fine.
Right. So I think you take all those things into consideration, and people keep trying to find reasons to knock him down. But Cam Ward showed you what happens if he plays at a major school. He had big numbers this year. It's the reason he was at the Heisman ceremony.
He had all-time ACC numbers this year.
You put Shedeur on one of those top schools in the Big Ten or the SEC or the ACC, whatever, and his dad isn't his coach, he's going to have big numbers too, and people are going to be like, oh, damn, that kid can actually play. He's like his daddy. They're not going to be like, oh, he's like his daddy, and they're talking about off-the-field character, and they don't like his persona. They'd be talking about on the field like, damn, that kid can ball. But because he was at Colorado and he played for his dad and he started at Jackson State instead of a major university, they've all got something to say about it. And then they start talking about how, well, he's athletic, but he's not really. He doesn't have a strong arm. He can move really well in the pocket, but like there's always this but every time they give him a compliment, and I don't understand it.
I think the media doesn't understand who Deion Sanders is as a coach. That dude's a hard ass, and he will chew his own son's ass out. Like, he's going to give you love, as his son, but he's definitely tough on him. I think they're using his personality, his persona, all that to knock him down. Let me ask this question before we talk about 3 other guys we got to get to, and then we got to get to our draft.
We haven't even started the QB carousel yet. What are you talking about?
I know. Well, there's 3 guys on the QB carousel that are the most important to talk about. If you were a quarterback needy team, would you feel comfortable drafting Shedeur or Cam Ward, or kicking the can to next year when there's said to be 4 or 5 top level prospects?
So yes and no, because I would need to know like who's drafting him, like what kind of situation are we walking
Just if
into?
you were the GM and you need a quarterback, would you feel comfortable drafting either one of them? I don't know how the rest of the team is composed. You sucked bad enough that you got a top pick. You need a quarterback. Would you feel okay putting your stamp of approval as a GM on drafting them? Because again, if you draft these guys and they fail, you're probably not going to be GM no more.
Yeah, see, again, like I'm trying to like, if I'm Tennessee, if I'm the GM of Tennessee, I'm probably saying no, because I don't think what I have right now is in position to help a young quarterback succeed. And I think there's other pieces I could get in this year's draft to then look at taking a chance on one of these younger retread quarterbacks and seeing what happens, or just running it back with what I already have and knowing I'm going to have a high draft pick again next year to then, like you said, kick the can down the road for what is going to be considered a better draft class.
You play in the AFC South, though. You can't guarantee you're going to be at the top of the draft next year.
I'm just saying, like, these are all
you can win a few
games. If I'm,
you can win a few games.
If I'm Cleveland, like, no, I don't want to draft a QB right now because I want to. There's holes everywhere on this team now. All of a sudden, I don't have cap space, but everything changes in 2 years. Like big time changes in 2 years. You can start doing some things next year. But then if I start looking at, like, let's say I'm New Orleans and my pick was a little bit higher and I could get in position. The Raiders, both of those teams, I would draft a quarterback for a lot of different reasons for each of them. So I like the quarterbacks enough to draft them, but I also, me, Pinky, like,
that was the question.
We're Jim Harbaugh's. We want to build our trenches and make sure those are solidified at least to some degree before I start trying to throw a rookie back there and hope I'm going to be successful. So that's why I say yes and no. I don't like giving you a split answer. I apologize for that. But it does kind of – so many things ran through my head when you said that right away that it was like yes for some, no for others, and that's kind of what it is. But I like them enough to draft them, definitely.
Okay, we're going to go with that.
Especially at the top. Like if the draft order was a little bit different, like if the Giants were at 1, I'd have no problem taking Shedeur at 1.
All right,
or Cam Ward, honestly. I think Brian Daboll with a young rookie quarterback, I think they do address the offensive line enough. You have neighbors. You kind of figure some things out. They learn from past mistakes. You hope that I think there could be something there. I think it's worth the risk. The Raiders, if they were a higher draft pick and Pierce didn't win some games that he shouldn't have for them, I'd take one of these 2 dudes.
I mean, the way it's fallen, Cam or Shedeur could be there because, again, the Patriots aren't going to take a guy and the Jags aren't going to take a guy.
There's a lot of people that have one of these guys falling now. And it makes a lot of sense.
So let's try to wrap this in 15 minutes. With the QB carousel, the biggest domino that needs to fall is the Matt Stafford situation. He has been granted. It is because, again, some of these QB needy teams could make the case if I could get Matt Stafford, I can win some games with Matt Stafford, and if I can get him for 2 to 3 years, I think we'd be all right.
See,
and again,
I kind of have
some GMs need to, like, some GM the Giants GM, he needs to make something happen, or he's going to lose his job.
I don't disagree with you,
right?
And I know I'm not trying to say they're on the same level as far as talent and playing the position, but I do think the situations are an equal setting as far as dominoes to fall for what happens after this, and that's Darnold. And that's because I know a lot of teams think that if they keep him, it means J.J. McCarthy becomes available. Now, I don't think that's true, but I know that's been a lot of the talk. And that's a whole different ball game and window that opens up then in that scenario. So I think it's not just Darnold, it's the implications of whether he stays or goes and what comes along with that at the same time that creates that domino to then equal what happens with Stafford.
If Matthew Stafford gets traded, then the Rams need a quarterback. And I think they'd be more than happy to go get Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold just played in their offense.
Well, what did I text you?
I think Stafford's the first domino that needs to fall.
What did I text you as soon as I heard the Stafford news?
You said that'd be a good spot for him.
I said my new working theory. I don't know where Stafford ends up yet. I haven't quite figured that out. But I do think he's gone. I think Stafford does get traded. And I think Sam Darnold does end up in LA as their short, long-term solution.
I can't remember who I was listening to. It's probably Rich Eisen. Stafford to the Vikings, Sam Darnold to the Rams makes a lot of sense. The Vikings are a squad that has everything they need to go on a Super Bowl run.
I disagree with that, so I don't think that's a good move for the
I
Vikings.
don't. They were 14-3 with Darnold, and I think Darnold on the Rams helps them. I think because it gives them a little bit longer runway with a quarterback than what Stafford gives you. And then I think Stafford would be that lightning in a bottle for the Vikings that could possibly get them over the hump.
I don't know if Stafford.
I'll take Stafford throwing dimes to Jefferson, Addison, and TJ Hawkinson all day.
I don't know if
and that's
Stafford
an upgrade over
elevates,
Darnold today.
I don't think Stafford's talent is so much greater than Darnold that it elevates what happened.
For sure.
Their defense had holes that needed to get fixed. They got ran all over in the playoffs. The Rams just exposed the shit out of them. And that offensive line had some issues as well. You fix a couple of those with the draft picks that you'd have to give up to get Darnold. I mean, to get Stafford, then you may as well keep Darnold. Like, I don't think the cost for the Vikings is good business.
Maybe not good business, but I do think Stafford is on a level better than Darnold and could help get you where you want to go.
I'm not saying he's not a better quarterback. I'm just saying I don't know if the difference is such that it gets you over the hump. Now, I could see Giants, Raiders.
I think that just makes them competitive. I don't think that makes them anywhat of a contender. Which, again, at that point, why make the deal, right?
Well, that's the thing is
because you got to trade. You got to trade for him. Were we talking Stafford? Is that what we're?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to trade for him, and then you got to give him like $50 million. Those teams aren't in that position. They've got the money, but they're not in the position to, like, dropping him on their team makes them maybe a playoff team. Doesn't make them a contender.
Right, but I think in both of those scenarios, that's all you're looking for right now. I mean, if you're being honest, like, both teams are a couple of years away from being truly competitive again. The Giants have a GM dead man walking. The coach is probably the same, regardless of what the GM gave him for a contract. Out in out in Vegas, the Raiders hired a coach who's the oldest in the league. And you got to believe he's there just to try and reset the culture and give them somewhat of what winning feels like. So he's not there long-term either.
Fun fact. In the AFC West, Sean Payton's the youngest coach. And most of us would think he's fairly old. He's the youngest coach in the division.
What is he now, 42?
No.
Oh, Sean Payton. You said AFC West. I was thinking NFC for some reason.
No.
Sean
AFC
Payton,
West.
60?
Pete Carroll. Yeah, Sean Payton's early 60s. Pete Carroll's in his 70s.
73
Harbaugh's
or 4.
Harbaugh's just a few years older than Peyton.
Yeah.
So Peyton is the youngest
then
coach
Andy
in the
Reid.
AFC West, and Andy Reid. So
Yeah.
fun little sidetrack. Stafford and Vegas kind of makes sense to me, but they don't have any weapons. Their O-line's not great. But Carroll's got 2 to 3 years. He does not have long to do this whole rebuild.
Their O-line isn't bad.
It's not awful.
They've got Bowers, Myers, and Renfro, which are kind of like...
Renfro's not there anymore.
Wait, what?
He got cut. Nobody picked him up.
Wow, I totally forgot about that. Okay, so they got Myers. I'm not saying Myers like a wide receiver 1, but him and Bowers
and he's a free agent.
Yeah, I just feel like they bring him back. That's why I don't see anybody else paying him.
Myers was pretty good. I agree. Myers is good.
He's a good receiver. He's just not a 1. That's the kicker.
They have a lot of things they got to rebuild. To me, like sticking Stafford on that team just doesn't make sense.
But that's why it makes sense to me, because you have so many holes. You want to try to keep some butts in the seat and be competitive, which the fans and everybody else would feel like he is. It gives you a couple years to start rebuilding. Get
Stafford
your cap
doesn't have
space
that
and everything in order where you want it.
I feel like if Stafford was there year 1, it kind of sucked. He'd be like, you know what, I'm retiring.
That's the kicker is you can if he plays well the first year, you could run it back the second year, and if he plays well, again, we all know this. If a GM and a front office does it right, you can do a 2-year turnaround, worst to first, real easy in the NFL, and be legit the second year. If you do it right and you have the cap space and the right draft picks, you can do it legitimately. So then in that situation, the Giants and the Raiders could be in a position to where Stafford was the right move, and then you're done after 2 or 3 years, and you go look at the quarterback market again. I'm saying this feels like he is gone, because it feels like enough teams have reached out, they are willing to move on, and it feels like the Rams have another plan already, to the point where I could even see that other plan being McVay bringing in Aaron Rodgers for a year and then dipping into the draft or something, and they take Jackson Dart in the first round out of nowhere. I just see this being enough of a, based on the players, a wild enough situation to where there is going to be movement. And then there's going to be a surprise situation after that movement.
I hope Stafford stays put. I think LA is the best spot for him.
I don't.
Obviously,
I want LA to move him. I want LA to move him because I think it is the perfect time for them to do so. They are on a great youth movement right now. They're dumping a bunch of salaries. They're picking up the right guys. They've been great drafting. You get the right quarterback in there to grow with this team, they could be dangerous with their draft picks going forward and acquiring somebody else's for the next 3 to 5 years.
But they were dangerous this year. They had a chance to beat Philly in the snow.
I'm not saying they weren't good by any means. I just think, me personally, I've seen enough from Stafford to where I think he is now on the decline. And I am more like Bill Belichick in the sense that I'd rather get off you a little bit too early than a little bit too late, especially at the cost of what you're paying him. I don't think his play was so great last year such that it's like, yeah, this dude still got it. Let's keep him. If I can get something for him right now, I'll move him.
He was top 8. He was top 8 last season. He really was.
That's fine. I'm still saying what I saw, I'm ready to move on. I didn't see anything from him last year. I was like, this is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback.
If they didn't
see it.
I still think Darnold's a downgrade, but that'd be the best option if they could get Darnold, but only if they could get Darnold. And there's no guarantee. Again, that's the other part of this of, are the Vikings going to let Darnold walk?
Well, the Vikings don't really have a choice.
Well, they do, because they can sign him.
It's up to Darnold.
They could sign him. If they pay him the money, he'll stay.
Yeah, but if somebody else pays him the money, he might also be like, actually, if the Rams offered him the same deal, just theoretically, it'd be hard to say I'm not going to go to the Rams,
which is kind of weird.
I don't have JJ looking over my shoulder every week if I have a bad game.
The only 2 spots for Darnold, in my opinion, are staying at Vikings or would be going to the Rams. And that's just because his potential has been unlocked. If he's already playing in a Sean McVay offense, so switching over there would be he'd be pretty good. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson and Addison over there, but he's got Puka, and I'm sure they can build, get some other weapons there. And McVay's a great play caller,
and they have a really good run game, so there's things that would protect him.
Other than that, I don't see another place where he would be successful.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
could he be?
I do see a couple scenarios where the Raiders could pick him up and he would be successful there.
I think he would be good, not great.
The first year could be a little bit up and down.
He was pretty damn
but
he was pretty damn good last year. He really was. And kudos to you. Again, you called it out.
He didn't do himself any favors in that last game of the season or the first game of the playoffs. I'll be the first to admit it. But there again, the offensive line was not good. They didn't have a run game all of a sudden.
We've said it a long time. He is one of the quarterbacks that kind of folds like a chair when he gets pressured. He does not have that, he's not quite on that same level of pocket presence and escapability that other quarterbacks have.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like I saw some growth in that area last year. I think people forget, he went through the school of David Carr his first couple years with the Jets. So, there's still some habits there that I think will get worked out as he gets more starts continuously. That was his first year going through a full season. All the other ones he either missed because of injury or he got yanked for somebody else. He didn't play at all last year, right? He had a whole year where he didn't even touch the field as a starter. So
for his career, his best option is to stay in Minnesota or get lucky and the Rams want him.
Don't disagree.
If he goes anywhere else, I do not think he will be as successful. I still think he can be a good NFL quarterback, but he'll be on that everything else has got to be perfect around him.
Be interested to see what happens if he went somewhere else other than if he ended up in New York, I would be concerned. I love Dayball, but I just don't know. I don't trust that GM at all in Sheen, and I don't know if they have the line or the weapons. You know what I mean? I would be slightly concerned. But who knows?
And you've already mentioned the last guy to talk about, Aaron Rodgers. And I kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers on the Rams does make sense. He's a California guy. I think
got a home in Malibu.
I think McVay could, run a good offense around him. The only other team I really see as if you stick them on there, they're competitive and they could compete, would be the Steelers.
That's where I think he ends up, to be perfectly honest with you, if he decides to play. I was watching Mike Greenberg this morning talk about he could see Rodgers retiring. That's kind of his big.
He doesn't have a whole lot left to prove or do or anything.
He doesn't. I don't think he wants his career to end the way it did in New York, though. I think he's too competitive for that to happen, if I'm being honest with you. And I think, the Steelers need a stopgap. They don't have a high enough pick in the draft to go get one of the guys that matters this year, I don't think. And so even if they take one of the other guys, it's more a little bit of a project. You don't want to start him the first year. They have put some into their offensive line. Aaron Rodgers, you don't have to trade for him.
Three of their 5 dudes were rookies last season.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They've invested into it. They're just young. You could invest into it a little more in this draft too and go get a couple more weapons. And Aaron Rodgers for a couple years. In all honesty, and I know people don't like hearing this, but he started playing better as the year progressed, especially towards the end of the season.
Oh,
and
most people were shitting on Rodgers at this point because they were losing. But if you watch the games, he was balling.
Right. And so, another offseason removed from Achilles injury. You put him on that Steelers team, the offensive line a little more solidified. Let's say they draft one of those top running backs and another wide receiver or something. You already got Pickens and Freiermuth. That defense we know can ball and shut people down if they want to. If Rodgers is right And I say all of this to say this. Him and Mike Tomlin have a very healthy mutual respect. And if you don't remember some of the games where they played against each other and a play would happen from one of them and they would just kind of have looks at each other all game like, all right, I like that chest move. I got you. What are we going to do next? I got something for that. They have a very healthy respect to where I could see that working for a couple years. And if so, and if what I saw from Rodgers towards the end of the season continues, I believe you can see a low-end all-pro quarterback possibly again, and they're Super Bowl contenders, whether people want to hear that or not. I do think that is the Steelers' best option going forward, and I also think it's Rodgers' best option. You take a slight little pay cut to go play somewhere where you respect the head coach, you respect the organization, you know you've got a chance to win, and you go out on at least hopefully a better note than the mess that was New York Jets.
Right. I agree. The other guy, we'll have to talk more in detail. The other guy that's got opportunity, I believe, would be
What?
Kirk Cousins.
No.
Kirk Cousins?
I think Justin Fields has more. I think he'd have more opportunity than Kirk Cousins.
Here's the opportunity with Kirk Cousins. Just like there was the opportunity for Russell Wilson. The Falcons are footing the bill for Kirk Cousins next season.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're
when
coming
they cut
from
him,
there.
when they cut him, and they will, he can sign for $1 million. He's not eating up your cap. It gives you the opportunity, whether he's a bridge, which may not be a bad idea, or he's your guy to try to be competitive and see what he has. At the very least, you're only paying him, $1.5 million or whatever it was.
Well,
right?
that's if the Falcons cut him.
No one's trading for him. So that's
what I mean, though. Like, they don't necessarily. That's what everybody keeps thinking they have to cut him. They don't. All you have to do is be able to, within your organization, say, our starting quarterback is getting paid this. Our backup quarterback is getting paid this. And just forget the names of who's getting which contract. And then you're still in a decent situation. You know what I mean? Because Penix is on a rookie deal, the books are still fine.
Look.
So that's why I don't think it's from the Falcons will cut him.
But I don't think it's a money. I don't even think they care about the money. They're on the hook for the money anyways. I think it's more about not having Michael Penix have to look over his back.
I don't think he will, because Kurt's not that kind of dude. I think that's the beauty of the situation is he's such a good dude that, yes, he's competitive. Yes, he wants to be a starter, but he's also not the type that's going to watch the starter. If he knows there's something he could have said or done to help, he's not going to sit back and not do it because it's going to cost him his job.
I think they cut him.
I just think you take a bigger financial hit cutting him than you do keeping him on the team. So that's why I find it hard to believe that they would cut him. If this was a situation where Michael Penix was about to get paid and they had to worry about a contract, I'd say, yeah, he's gone. Like, that, end of story. But because what you're paying Penix and the books still add up, it all works out. Damn right it's a Nebraska hat. Absolutely. Gross. It's a Nebraska hat.
Gross.
We're talking draft tonight. So NFL, college, NFL. Pro. You see? Draft. See?
Right. I agree with you, Dreamweaver.
I mean,
all right.
Yeah, but Dreamweaver is probably a Buffs guy, and that's like arguably the most disgusting thing you can do.
All right. So I think we're done. I wanted to get it close to an hour and then start. So let's.
The guy lives in Omaha. He's not a Nebraska fan. Like, how do you end up in Omaha if you're not from Omaha? How does I don't even understand that. And I was born in Lincoln, and I'm not trying to go back.
All right, partner. So we're going to do our first mock draft of the season. This is new for us. We usually only do one right before I head off to the draft. So this will be kind of interesting. I think we're going to do 3. We're going to do one after free agency, and then we'll do one right before the draft. So we'll hit 3 overall. I am going to give you the first pick because obviously I'm wearing a lot of Broncos gear. I'm going to draft for the Broncos. So to do that, I have to make you the first pick. So
This guy.
Sometimes I do what I want. That's what happens.
So this one is super intriguing to me for a couple different reasons. What they do with their quarterback. Like, I think we can all agree Levis probably isn't the dude going forward. But you have a couple pieces. Like, Pollard actually looked pretty good for you last year.
He did.
And while he's not young, he's not old. Spears looked pretty good in that secondary role. Okonkwo, while not your standard inline tight end, started to look like an actual weapon down the stretch. What are you doing with your wide receivers? Treylon Burks and some of the other guys they haven't lived up to the hype. Your defense, your offensive line, there are some holes that you need to look at. I go back and forth here, Pinky.
So, right before you answer the pick, I'll say I think the Titans are going to find a trade partner and trade out of one.
Thanks for stealing my thunder. After you give me the pick, then you go ahead and just take away.
Well, you can't trade the pick, so you got to make a pick. You can't.
So I was going to stop all of that and say this. Pause. When we do our drafts, we do not ever do trades. Ever. We drafted exactly how the board says. So each one of these could be a little bit different because we could see trades up and two and things of that nature. We draft how the board shows us when it's available at that time we draft. We will discuss, though, if we think there's a good opportunity where a team might want to trade given the scenario. All that being said, yes, Pinky, I was going to say I think this would be a good spot for them to trade out. Or I think it would be an equally good spot if they were willing to do the things necessary, which is let the man just be a beast and play. I would take Travis Hunter here and then let him play wide receiver and cornerback for you. Because until he proves me otherwise, I think he can do it at the next level. Everybody kept saying he wasn't going to be able to do it at the college level, and he went out and did it. Maybe he doesn't do it at a 98%. Maybe he does it at a 70%. But if you're getting that dude to play at, let's say, potential-wise and all-pro level, 70% of the snaps on offense and 70% of the snaps on defense, I would say you did really well with that first overall pick.
Right.
I had a hard time not taking Abdul Carter here, but again, the only reason I decided to put Hunter at 1 is because if I'm the Titans and it's me, I'm going to let him play both sides of the field until he proves he can't.
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer there. I think Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are the best two guys in the draft. And I don't think there's a wrong answer there. So Travis Hunter it is. Well, with no trade available, and I still feel like Myles Garrett's getting traded. I know Cleveland's playing the we're not trading them. We're not. That tells other teams, come make me an offer.
Well, and if you don't trade him this year, then you're really stupid because he has very clearly said, I'm not re-signing with you. And next year, the value only decreases.
Right. Every year it decreases.
From the moment the draft starts, you are on the clock for his value. Because once that draft ends, his value is going to decrease every single day after that.
So they're fairly lucky. They actually do have 9 picks this year. So they finally gotten all their picks back.
Yep.
They need more because the salary cap hell they're in, and they're old as well. A lot of their players are aging.
They wasted an amazing offensive line's prime for sure.
They did, absolutely. So they need a total rebuild. Best way to do that is picks. I'd say they'd probably trade this pick too. Or stay put. And again, it's easy. They're taking Abdul Carter. You trade Myles Garrett, you need a guy to replace him. Abdul Carter. There you go.
I like that. We're gonna make this real easy, Pinky. I keep hearing everybody say that the pick here is Cam Ward. A lot of it has to do with his arm strength playing in that stadium in those conditions. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Eli Manning play there and is now going to be not first ballot, but for all intents and purposes, a Hall of Famer and won a couple Super Bowls? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Eli wasn't known for having a strong arm, was he? Like that wasn't one of his fortes.
He never had the knock of having a weak arm, though. He had more than enough.
No, he was no Chad Pennington, but nobody was comparing.
He had he had a
the
stronger arm
strongest
than
arms in
Peyton.
the league.
No, he wasn't on that level, but the arm strength was never in question with Eli.
I'm not saying it was, and I don't think anybody's questioning Shador's arm strength. I think they're just saying it's not Josh Allen, and for whatever reason, that's a knock now. But to me, the accuracy, the pocket presence, given the offensive line situation right now, his ability to be accurate, and I also think he's very underrated athletically and can move with his legs, and Dayball can put all that together. I like Shador Sanders here for the Giants.
Well, hold on. I can't find him.
Well, he's got to be right at the top, dude.
He's
just
not.
had to scroll right by him.
He's not.
He absolutely had to be.
McMillan, Genty, Burden, Barron, Warren, Pierce, Campbell, Johnson, Grant,
Okay,
Nolan.
just go back to the top. Let's do this easy, Pinky. There's Cam Ward.
I'm telling you, he's not.
Just
he's not
go
on
back
this
up
first
to the
level.
top. Let's just do this the easy way, bud. Scroll all the way back up to the top. Now, right here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I always forget. I've never used this. He's ranked 45th, bro.
Okay.
He was on page 2.
That's on this app, or
right, and I'm only
or...
using PFF right now because they're not playing a video.
Yeah, that's fine.
Every
Regardless,
other website
I don't really care
was
what
playing
PFF
a video.
has him. I have liked Shador for a long time. I think he is a really talented prospect. I do think he's being wildly underrated by a lot of people. If I'm New York, am ecstatic that he fell to 3, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't try to move out of this if I'm New York. So, boom, done. Let's roll.
So New England's on the clock, and I do think they have a really good conundrum. For just a sec, they have to consider what many say is the best wide receiver in the class. But when you can't protect Drake May, it doesn't matter. So Will Campbell, welcome to New England.
I like it.
Drake May played really well with what he had.
Yes, he did. And I also think they have some pieces that they protect him. Look, Stevenson,
and I hate that.
I think, is a legit back. I think Ramadre could be really good as a 3-down back still. I think Keyshawn Boutte and is it Demario Douglas? Was that the other guy? I'm drawing a blank on the other guy.
Yeah, I think it was Douglas.
They kind of came on a little bit towards the end of the season. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not saying they're ones, but I'm saying you might have something there as your 2 or 3s, which is good to know. They've got some things that they can build it on if you can protect the quarterback.
You can draft wide receivers in round 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7. It won't matter if you can't protect them. So if the quarterback can't get the ball to him, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Jaguars on the clock. I think this is super easy. You're ecstatic Mason Graham fell. Your defense is awful. Your offense already has some pieces that you should be able to work with. You could work with the offensive line a little bit in free agency if you need to. If your defense isn't ever going to stop anybody, it's damn near impossible to win in the NFL. Because going into a shootout every week, you're screwed. They've already made a couple mistakes drafting defenders in the past and overvaluing them.
Well,
they have started to play a little bit better, but they're still not living up to the pick per se that they were.
They drafted some athletes on defense.
That's where I'm getting at.
Projecting
Mason Graham eats up the middle. He's going to command double teams.
That guy's pressure ability from the inside is...
And when you can do that, it allows then some of those athletes you drafted to not have hands on them as often and play a little bit more freely, and it could really help improve that defense.
In the last 6 years, there's been 3 defensive tackles that have impacted Super Bowls. Can you name them?
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones has done multiple. Yep.
Oh my God, I love the
We-
guy. And I'm drawing a blank on
we
his
just
first
watched-
name, but
we just watched the recent guy for
Aaron
Philly.
Donald
Aaron Donald, Jalen Carter for
and
Philly,
then
right?
Jalen Carter here with
They're defensive interior players who can pressure, can stop the run. They can disrupt the game. That's what Mason Graham is.
and Pink and I love the trenches. We just do.
I love this pick, and it sucks that he's going to Jacksonville, but I'm glad he's going to Jacksonville and not Oakland. So,
Okay.
Oakland is on the clock, and Oakland is in one of those weird spots where they need everything. Everything. So, like, I'm looking down the board, and I'm like, man, they could definitely use Will Johnson. They could use Kenneth Grant. But I think it's pretty glaring after they traded Devontae Adams. They need a wide receiver. So, McMillan, come on over. I don't know who's throwing to you, but... Oh, wait. Hold on. Never mind. Cam Ward's still on the board. Hold on. Can I reverse that? I don't know. How do I reverse that? Nope. It might not let me do it. I would reverse it. I probably would take Cam Ward there, but maybe they don't like. Maybe Brady decides he doesn't like Cam Ward. It won't let me go back, will it?
Can you right click? You can't do nothing.
No, if I do back, it goes all the way back.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Hold on. Let's see.
Go up to your picks.
Your
God,
picks.
people must just love this stuff. Nope, that's not. Oh yeah, there you go. Now go to the Raiders. Can you reverse it from there? No. All right. Well, they drafted Tetioria McMillan.
They did. They got him. They decided they didn't like Cam Ward. Suck it, Cam Ward.
Decided they were going to roll the dice in a different direction, apparently.
So if that were to happen, I think that's pretty easy for the Jets then.
You think the Jets take Cam Ward here?
I do. If he were available, they need a quarterback too.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But they also have some offensive line issues.
They do have some issues.
You got a tackle at Kelvin Banks Jr. sitting there who is, maybe this might be a slight stretch, but a lot of people really like his potential a whole lot. Big boy, super athletic, could be your true tackle for a lot of years. I hesitate here to go Cam Ward, only because I do think they try to go free agency, and I do think they try to push it another year. I do think they really want to deal with their offensive line. I'm not going to go Kelvin Banks, actually. I am going to go Josh Simmons, who I think is slightly more, he should be just up above a little bit. Is he not above? Yeah, there, right? Go down. Whoa. There he is, 16. I think he's a little bit more polished, maybe not. But I'm going to go with him for the Jets right now. I think they like their running backs. I think they like Garrett Wilson. I think they feel like they could add some weapons later in the draft that may or may not produce, but I don't think they go quarterback this year after everything that happened with Aaron Rodgers and some of the swings and misses they've had in what's perceived to be a weak quarterback draft, unless they do it in, rounds 2 or 3, say Jalen Milroe or something like that maybe. But I think there's a lot of talent at other positions at the top of this draft where even if Cam Ward did fall, Pinky, I think that would surprise them, but I don't think it would change their plans because I don't think they're expecting to get him now anyways. So I think they would stick with trying to build, like I said, Calvin Banks or Simmons. I think you could go either way here as the top tackle off the boards and be really ecstatic with that situation.
Well, the Panthers absolutely need some defensive help. They were atrocious on defense last year. And I think this guy from Marshall, Mike Green, is going to turn out to be a heck of a pass rusher.
I agree, but wow, are you making a giant mistake as the Panthers, which would be on par with what they normally do, because you have a young quarterback who needs weapons, whether it's in the backfield or to throw the ball to, and you're going to just pass right over that is crazy when you have
I think
arguably the best wide receiver in the class still on the board.
Arguably, but I still think they're going to, again, I think they'll be one of the teams that decides. The pass rushers in this draft are not as great as the defensive linemen. So
I mean, I don't disagree with your assessment of Green. So by no means am I trying to say he's not going to be, I think, a great pick for somebody in the talent. But damn, like I love Luther Burden and young Bryce. Bryce could use some help.
I don't think many people are excited about the wide receiver class this year.
I think they need to reconsider some of these top dudes.
So I think they'll be willing to wait on wide receivers, and I think they'll go and get some of the best players. And again, we had a lot of offensive players go in the draft last year. Yeah. I think this year we're going to see a little bit more on the defensive side.
Yeah, I mean, the first round's going to be more defensive heavy, I think, for sure. That could be interesting. For the Saints, I mean, golly, you are in.
You know they're running the. I feel like they're running the card up if Cam Ward is still on the board.
So that's kind of where I'm going right now with this. Is you're in cap hell. I mean, worst cap situation in the league by far. But you do have some talent on that team. But the defense is getting a little bit older. The offense is getting a little bit older where the talent is, outside of, like, say, an Olave at wide receiver. And he's coming up, on year 4 now? So
yeah, I think
or year 3 for sure. I'm trying to remember.
Year 3. I think it's year 3. Year 3.
But still, you're getting in a position where you might have to pay him. But he's, had some injury history, which unfortunately has kept him off the field at times. There's just so many things that you could go anywhere with. To me, it's like, damn, Cam Ward's on the board. I've got Kelvin Banks still on the board as a tackle, who I think is just a phenomenal talent. And it's hard to go wrong with your left tackle, because if you have that, it makes getting a quarterback when you're ready a whole lot easier of a scenario. But Pinky, I agree with you that I think would run this up. Cam Ward, they would be willing to move on from Derek Carr and Spencer Rattler if that were the scenario. But man, I think Cam Ward's going to fall a little bit, buddy, because I'm taking Kelvin Banks Jr. I'm not in a position as the Saints where I think getting my quarterback right now is in my best interest.
Man, if the draft fell this way, the Bears are pissed. 3 tackles in the top 10. They are not happy right now. But I think it forces their hand. They're going to have to draft someone else. And I do think they would draft a corner. Oh, no, they've already got really good corners. So they'd probably go with an edge player. So I think their linebackers are bad too. They need an edge. They need someone to go along with who did they got from Washington?
What do they need? What would you do though if the board fell this way, if you were the Bears?
I mean, I think if it fell this way, I do think I'd trade back if I could find a trade partner.
Sure.
Because again, it's probably like they could use this guy from Missouri. They could definitely use they could really use this guy, Gray Zabel, because he could play multiple positions. He actually can play guard and center if need be.
Yep.
So he'd probably be a pretty good spot for them too. But again, at 10, that's a little high to draft those guys. So I feel like they just continue building their defense, which again, they don't have an edge rusher opposite. I think it's Sweat.
Yeah, it is Sweat. But
Montez Sweat.
You've done that for the last 3 years. Where has that gotten you? Why Genty is sitting on the board? Why would he not be in consideration?
I just don't think that's. I don't know if that's what Ben Johnson would do. He's got 2 decent runners. They're decent. They're not great.
Who?
Fuck it. Let's just go Genty. Fuck it.
Who do they have?
Well, they've got Swift, and they had that other Roshan Johnson that they like. But Genty's
and what did
better
Detroit
than
do with Swift?
Well,
Ben Johnson was there.
They got his replacement, David Montgomery.
No. They had...
Well, Montgomery and Swift are similar players.
No.
They drafted a better player in Gibbs.
Gibbs replaced Swift. Montgomery replaced who?
I mean, they had Williams.
Down in New Orleans now.
Williams.
Yep. They upgraded their Sonic and Knuckles to actually Sonic and Knuckles. Like, if you want to think about it that way. They're on, like, B film before, and they're like, these guys aren't bad, but we can go from, like, the B reel to Hollywood. Let's go grab Hollywood. It would not surprise me at all if the board fell this way. If Ben Johnson goes, dude, go get that Cadillac. And that offense is going to roll.
I mean, I think they would definitely prefer to grab a tackle here, and they would be really mad that tackles are gone.
I agree. But if that's the situation, it would not surprise me at all if they took Genty and said, we're going to load this offense up. And Ben Johnson's going to say, this is why you brought me here, right? So go get him. Look what I did with Jahmyr Gibbs.
You're on the clock, Caleb, with San Francisco.
Yeah, this is interesting because it's another team where a lot of talent, but it's getting older. And now you kind of have to decide where you want to start replacing that talent.
I think they would want to tackle as well.
Yeah, I for sure. But I think they're also, I think they trust in their system enough to feel like they can kind of move pieces around, this, that, and the other. If this is the board sitting here and they're at 11, I think they're definitely trading back. But
if they can find a trade partner,
I would not lie. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I think if the board's sitting here, sitting like this, I think they draft Tyler Warren as Kittle's replacement, if you will. And the things Kyle Shanahan would be drooling over and dreaming up with the Kittle Warren on the field, a healthy Christian McCaffrey, a healthy, why am I drawing a blank? Who did they just pay last year? I can see him, Ayuk. And, going from there, I think Kyle Shanahan would be thrilled to have that scenario.
And Dallas, man, they need a lot.
Jerry Jones is pissed Genty's there, not there. And Jones is mad at tackle's not there. Another team that would have wanted to tackle, especially with the news they just got with Martin retiring as their guard. Their interior is now weak.
Their defensive line is bad. So
bad.
They're going to get Kenneth Grant.
I like that.
And it's funny that it's on here. It doesn't say their need is defensive tackle. They need a defensive tackle. Like, they do not have anybody that defenses have to worry about or offenses have to worry about.
I agree.
Besides Micah, you just run away from Micah. So, Miami on the clock. We're going to speed up a little bit.
Yeah, so another team that trades back, but I think while it may not necessarily be a need, I think it still can help the defense as a whole. And, talent's talent, and it can fill some holes for you. So I think based on where we're looking at right now, I think they'd go along the lines of a Jahad Campbell and try to put something kind of in the middle of the field of that defense with the top, defensive tackles off the board already. Take top linebacker, guy who can move sideline to sideline and see what happens from there.
I think Indianapolis is upset that Tyler Warren is not there. And I do think they would have, again, I feel like almost everybody would trade back if they could find a trade partner.
Yeah.
But in this case, I do think they still need a good edge rusher to go along with the guy they drafted last year, Latu. So James Pierce is going to head over to Tennessee, or from Tennessee, and play in Indianapolis.
Nice.
Indy. Easier to say.
This one is interesting. Scroll down for me just a little bit because there's two names here I think the Falcons could be looking at. The Walter Nolan, I think, is an interesting name. And while it doesn't say defensive line isn't needed theirs, again, Pinky and I love the trenches. And what they had going last year, if your trenches get even more solidified, it only helps your back end. But because they were pretty solid, I'm actually going to go on the back end to help the trenches this time around because I think the trenches are pretty solid. And I like Will Johnson to go out there on the outside and help solidify their cornerback secondary situation.
That's a big need. Arizona's on the clock. And I think they would like some O-linemen. And they do need defensive linemen too. So I think Walter Nolan is a great player to have at this time.
That would be good for Gannon down there in Arizona. The Bengals are just foolish. I'm going to start there. The way they've handled their wide receiver situation is just mind-boggling. They're going to end up having to pay Jamar Chase the highest contract outside of a quarterback in the history of the NFL.
And they're going to pay T. Higgins top 5 too.
Because they franchise tagged him. They could have gotten both of them for a lot cheaper. If
they haven't franchise tagged him yet.
Yeah, but they're going to have to.
Their plan is to franchise.
Or you let him walk for absolutely nothing. And then, I mean, at this pick, you'd be looking at Luther Burden or Emeka Buka. I'm going to say they don't do that. Only because as of right now, it sounds like those wide receivers are going to be on the team for next year. Trey Hendrickson is still going to be on the team for next year, whether they get deals done right now or not. That defense needed help. And again,
big time.
There's not some great trenches guys after Nolan just went off the board here. I'm not saying there's not still some really good talent, but I can help the trenches if I can help the back end a little bit here in this scenario. And I really like that safety out of Georgia sitting at the top, still sitting there with Starks.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud.
I think he can do some damage. He likes to come down into the line and play the run game a little bit too. So that it's a need for sure, whether it's saying it on there or not. Like help the guys out on the back end a little bit.
Seattle does need an edge player, and I do think they would take Mikael Williams because the center and guard, there's nobody worth grabbing that high yet. So keep building up that defense.
Right. Tampa definitely needs help on the defense with who they're about to lose. That's really where they have a need. But with the board sitting where it's at right now and the fact that I don't think Chris Godwin comes back, I think they do lose him in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
I think they like McMillan. It's McMillan, right? That's who they drafted last year.
Yes, from Washington.
Yeah. I think they like him. You're still going to have Mike Evans. I like Trey Palmer, but for whatever reason, they don't seem to. And they seem to have kind of ready to move on from him. The board falling this way, you've got two really damn good receivers that you could pair with McMillan going forward and be a third option or possibly even a second option maybe, depending on if they're better than McMillan with Mike Evans for the time being. And Baker showed if you give him weapons, the dude can sling the ball and keep your offense rolling. So I think they try to address some of the defensive needs later in the draft and free agency. The board fell this way. I think they'd be ecstatic. And I still think it's wild to me that Luther Burden has taken this like free fall somehow from when the season started, being the best wide receiver possible to people have all these questions about him. He played in Missouri.
PFF has him ranked 7th overall.
That's what I'm saying. So if I'm Tampa right now and this falls, I love that pick right now. I'm ecstatic.
They would dig that, which this comes down to, and I mean, every Broncos mock draft has this pairing. It's either Emeka Ibuka or Colston Loveland.
Now, let's be honest. Pinky, just be honest here. It's okay, and we can move on, and I love that you did it. I'm not mad. But you didn't take Loveland for the Colts after Warren went because you wanted to be able to draft Loveland right here for the Broncos.
That played into it. Again, I don't know what grade the Colts have on Loveland. If the Colts had drafted Loveland, that's where Ibuka, Amarion Hampton, or I do think this D lineman or actually Gray Zabel becomes an option. Jalen Walker. I mean, the Broncos would still have options if they can't find.
Broncos have a lot of options just because they had guys step up last year that you weren't quite expecting, but it looks like it's a true step up and you're okay. So the holes that you thought you might have come this draft after last year's draft aren't as glaring as they were.
Right.
The Broncos have holes, but they're not these crazy needs anymore.
Mark Schlereth, before the season last year, on his show, his co-host said the Broncos would be lucky to win 5 games. And Schlereth said, "You're crazy. You're out of your mind." And the guy said they have the worst roster in the league. And Schlereth said, "No, they have a bunch of dudes on the roster you don't know about yet." He happened to be pretty right because a lot of guys really did step up their game in ways that we didn't see coming, right? So in this scenario, I would say if Loveland is still on the board, I think they would take Loveland because the other tight ends are good, but I don't think they have the potential to be great. And that's where I think they would take Loveland.
I like that. I struggle with this one a little bit because I think
this one's easy.
I don't think it is because I think they do end up with Aaron Rodgers, or at least that's what I would think the best fit for their situation is. So then I think they lose Najee Harris. I don't think Warren's a dude you can play out as the one. Mm-hmm. I think they have put some really good effort in their offensive line. And like you said, they're young, but I think they were showing some good potential and improvement as the year progressed. Do you go get somebody that can play on the outside opposite Pickens, or do you go put somebody in the backfield?
I think with as many running backs that are in this class, I think you'd have to go wide receiver because the wide receiver is not as stacked.
So here's the question then. I don't. But I have heard people talk now here recently that there are whispers within the league circles that a lot of people have Genty and Hampton equal. Same dude as far as their evaluations are concerned. So if one of them's dropping to you at 21, that would be a steal. I though am under the belief that there's 5 guys, and I've said this for a while now, that are all basically interchangeable. Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, and Johnson. If you can get any one of those 5, I think you did really well. So with that being said, Pinky, I agree with you. I would go get the dude who can play on the outside opposite Pickens. It allows Freiermuth to get more of the middle opened up. Rodgers has 2 dudes to throw to on the outside, and you can worry about a running back next round or the 3rd round even possibly.
Oh, man, the Chargers are on the clock. Oh.
And they can go – this is another team that's very interesting because they can go a lot of different ways.
I got a feeling – oh, man. I think they would draft another D lineman.
I agree. They like the trenches like we do. I mean, Harbaugh's a trench dude for sure. And they're probably going to lose Bosa. but they're not as worried about replacing the edge rusher as they are shoring up that interior first. He proved that with last year's draft, right on the offensive side of the ball. So I think you're right. That's who they would be eyeing at that position.
Ooh, I think this one's actually pretty easy for these guys.
You think so?
I do, because I think they want to get rid of Jair Alexander.
So that's where I'm kind of wondering. In this situation, I know the last 2 times I have actually gone where I take the back end guy over the interior guy. And in this situation, I like the interior guys. And give me a second here. There was somebody I had my eye on previously. And it's a name that for some reason is PFF's got a lot lower. I think I'm gonna go edge though. I keep thinking about this and I keep going back and forth.
I mean, they got Edger and Cooper last year from Texas A&M on the edge. They've got Rashawn Gary on the inside.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart, though. I think I'm going to put another edge guy on there, and I'm going to see what can happen. At some point, one of these dudes has to eat. And the other ones aren't bad, but I feel like their biggest issue last year was just, if it's going to take 3 dudes to play on the edge almost with an outside linebacker and 2 edge guys to get to the quarterback, then fine. But Green Bay had the interior was very tempting, but they needed to get pressure. They needed to get pressure on that defense, and they had some trouble doing that with quarterbacks. And if you can get to, make Jared Goff's life a little bit more miserable. The reason I went here is I think this guy in Stewart has a better chance of being disruptive on the outside than the interior guys that are on the board right now have at being a disruptor on the interior. They're not that Graham type where they're going to double team and still be able to move the pocket from the interior kind of thing. At least this is how I feel right now. So I think that's why I'll go Stewart here.
All right. Well, I think the Minnesota Vikings, as we saw in their playoff game, that they need some interior O-line help. And I think they'd be very happy with Gray Zabel coming to town.
I agree. And it actually, Pinky, will surprise me if he makes it to 24. He seems to be one of the bigger movers up the boards the more time progresses.
Right. So I think, and again, what always happens with mock drafts, league actual teams have guys graded higher than what the media, PFF, all the mock draft sites have. So,
I mean, just look at the Raiders and Mike Mayock and John Gruden.
Oh, that's bad. I take this back to like last year, the Buccaneers, they had an early, I think they were 22, 23, somewhere in there. They took Connor Barton from Duke, inside interior lineman. He worked out great for them. This is, Minnesota needs that. Dalton Reisner's not the greatest. He's a perfect depth guy. You probably don't really want him starting. So this would be a great pick for them. So you're on the clock with the Texans. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, scroll down just a little bit here for me, because I think they're going to reach ever so slightly. Keep going just a little bit here. A little bit. Oh, PFF's got them way down there.
Who are you looking for?
They're at Donovan. Did we draft Donovan Jackson already?
No. Oh, dude, he's you're talking about the interior guy from Ohio State?
He's a guard.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like second, third round rated right now.
Yeah, I know he is, but I think they reach a little bit here. Tyler Booker's right there. They got Tyler Booker a little bit higher, it looks like. But I like Jackson a little bit more. I like Here's why I think they reach a little bit for this guy. Where, if I remember correctly when I was looking, they draft a little bit later in the second round as well. I don't know if he makes it back around to them in that situation. And this guy, if you go back and watch what he did in the run game for Ohio State last year to open up holes for Judkins and Henderson and protect that interior. I know everybody wants to talk about the pretty guys and the tackles on the outside and protecting that blind side, but if you're getting pressure up the middle like Houston was last year, it's a problem. And it caused a lot of issues for Stroud, especially when they started losing weapons on the outside. And then Mixon didn't have any holes to run through, and that caused some issues. PFF got him ranked a lot lower than I like him. I do think he might be the top interior lineman in the draft.
He might get moved up as we go through the process, but that's pretty consistent with the mock draft site that I use.
I think he's the top interior lineman potentially in the draft. So I think it fills a huge need for me personally for Houston. I think they had issues there last year. He can play either guard position. I think that's huge personally. So that's what I would. I maybe they're reaching a little bit on somebody else, but I think they go offensive line here regardless. And if that means they have to reach just a little bit to make sure, I think that's what they need to do.
Well, the Rams will go ahead and take the top tackle, at least on the board right here, and Armand Mimbo. Easy peasy.
Nice. Give me Barron for the Ravens.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, they would be
match him up with Nate Wiggins from last year.
Add to that secondary.
Beautiful.
And
beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Continue on, good sir.
Detroit's on the clock, and the way that this board has fallen, I think Jalen Walker's got some edge ability. They got him at linebacker, but I think he can play outside. And I think they'd be happy with Jalen Walker.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you there, good sir. And
I was tempted on a wide receiver, because I do think they need someone opposite Amon-Ra. Tim Patrick was a nice story. Jameson Williams can be good when he's available, but he seems to pull a muscle here and there. But this is probably the best value at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, dude, to think he's going to be just a linebacker, I think would be crazy, especially with Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. The dude's like 6'2", 6'3", 250, something like that. He's not a smaller guy. So I think he could easily convert to that edge type on the opposite side from Hutchinson, and you could have a really good potential there for sure. Washington, this becomes very interesting. I think, we haven't said it with all the teams, but like Pinky said, a lot of these teams would absolutely love to trade back if they could and acquire more picks, given that we both feel there's a lot of depth in this draft, just maybe not a lot of top end tier talent type thing. But there's a lot of really good wide receiver twos, solid starters on offense and defense, depth pieces on lines and things of that nature. Washington, I think they're going to try to swing for the fences in free agency. I think they're going to make a play for Myles Garrett. I think they're going to try to do some things like that to add pieces. Whether or not any of those get done, that's going to be something else we'll have to wait and see. But if the board is sitting like this, I could honestly see them taking Golden out of Texas as a guy who could potentially play on the outside. He could possibly be that X factor piece on the offense to move the sticks with McLaren. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Golden falls to the second round at all, but I could also see somebody like Washington saying, we really liked what we saw from that guy. We really liked what we heard from him when we interviewed him. And this guy can be a major factor for our quarterback on offense. And because of that, I like that potential there with Jaden Daniels.
See, I think they would have gone with a tackle, but the wide receiver is still a good need too.
You're not wrong there. So it's hard to say, but I think Golden could be. I think he's kind of the wild card of the wide receiver group. The dude has the skill level where he could be maybe the best wide receiver in this draft. He's got. I don't know why. I haven't quite been able to pin it down just yet, and I'm gonna have to try and figure this out a little bit more. But he's got some Percy Harvin to me. And if he can stay on the field and not have injuries, that could be a steal at 29. You know what I mean?
That could be true. Oh man, it's a tough spot. I think Buffalo does have some needs, and I think they do have some needs in the backfield. So we're gonna just grab the top corner rated here. Come on over.
Nice.
Trey Amos.
Nice. Kansas City is thrilled. They are now able to draft their quarterback of the future and allow him to learn from Patrick Mahomes for the next couple of years. No. This would be interesting. I think they go Conley there. I think they take that tackle. They're going to try to do as much as they can for the offensive line in this draft. Whether they feel it's a reach or not, I think they're going to try to load up at that position, and that is what it is.
If I'm Kansas City and there's a tackle, if the board does not fall the way that we did it this time, and one of these tackles falls, I would trade up and get one of the best tackles I could.
Sure. I don't think Conley's a bad tackle, actually. No, I think he's slightly underrated.
Both tackles that they have, Juwan Taylor is awful. And then the left tackle situation is just god awful.
Yeah, you want to move Tooney back inside for sure. So if this allows you to do that, you're gonna swing and even if you think it's a slight reach. But he played really well at Oregon. Let's not forget they threw the ball quite a bit and he played well.
Look,
so
if the board fell this way, there is no doubt that a team is coming up for Cam Ward. Philly would be more than happy to trade out. They want that
fifth-year option. They would definitely try to sneak in there. The Raiders, who else might try to jump right there? A couple teams probably would be in the mix, but yeah, I think you're right.
And there's a couple different guys here that look like Philly guys, but knowing Philly, and I know Landon Dickerson is having some issues. So Tyler Booker would join that O-line as a depth piece because they do a really good job of drafting O-linemen before they need them.
Agreed.
So this board felt really weird, probably because I made a mistake by not taking Cam Ward at 6. But it is Cam Ward, you're a second rounder.
Honest, people would be like, "You crazy?" Well, crazier things have happened in an NFL draft, and guys falling is not uncommon. Aaron Rodgers should have never made it to 25th or something like that.
Yeah,
24th. So the idea that Cam Ward might fall isn't unheard of.
It's not completely crazy,
but up a little bit though. So thank you for accidentally messing things up and causing us to have to slightly pivot.
So overall in this draft, according to a lot of the analysts, there's like 20 to 30 defensive linemen.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, one thing that I struggled with was that Green Bay pick. And another name I want people to keep an eye on that seems to be grading as a second rounder, but man, I could easily see him being the next great Ohio State lineman, and he should go in the first, and that's Jack Sawyer. And the thought of taking him there at Green Bay instead of Stewart was definitely a very realistic option as well.
Right. I mean, well, again, a lot of guys that we drafted might make it to the second round, and there'll be a lot of guys in the second round that probably make it to the first. So,
sure, absolutely.
So it's one of those things. So overall, pretty happy with it. As a Broncos fan, coming back to the Broncos to kind of finish it out, I feel like we're in such a really good spot at the moment that I'd really be happy with anybody.
I think there's actually quite a few teams in this year's draft that are in that position. More so than normal, if I'm being honest with you. I think if you kind of look at situations here, you know, I think there are a few teams who, depending on how the board falls, would sit there and go, yeah, I mean, that's a solid pick for us. Because, again, there's not a lot of those top-end names that you see in some of these drafts to where everybody's like, if we don't get this guy, it's going to suck. And so then they build it up to only bring themselves down. This year, I think people are looking at this draft as like, man, we can fill some holes. We can get some quality starters. Maybe they're not all pro, but they're not going to be a bum we're replacing in a year. This is going to be somebody who's on the team for the next 7, 8, 9 years, filling that spot for us, and we're not going to have to worry about it again. And I think there's a lot of that can be found in this draft. You know, going back to Pinky's talking about the defensive linemen, I've talked about the running backs. I do believe the top 5 guys are basically interchangeable. And depending on where each goes, any one of the 5 could be the best running back out of that rookie class next year. So I think there's a lot of that in this draft. But because there's not a lot of high-end quarterback potential on paper, that usually ends up making people be like, oh, this draft class is weak, or this draft isn't going to be all that and the other. Sometimes these are the drafts Pinky and I like the most because it goes deep. So we're looking 3, 4, 5 rounds, and we're still excited about players we're seeing on the board. Instead of it just being top-end, high-end names, it's just a great first round. And then after that, you're kind of like, there's not a lot left here now. So I almost prefer these drafts. I think the tight ends are really deep. I think Warren is the dude. I think Loveland is the next guy, obviously. But I think there's the guy out of LSU. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Mason.
Yeah. I think
Mason
Fannin out of Bowling Green, he's kind of moving down boards, it looks like, because he's not as much of a inline blocker. He's more of the split out tight end type.
He's the move tight end, yeah, for sure.
He's got some crazy potential that you could see. He reminds me kind of Isaiah Likely almost. There's just a lot of stuff in this draft that you're going to be excited about, I think, by the time it's over with. You know, I talked about how I reached for a couple linemen. It may not be a reach, though. If you're truly wanting to fill needs and you think these guys are talented, you know, regardless of where PFF or somebody is ranking them, go fill that hole up, because there's going to be the next 2 rounds 1 through 3. I think you're going to see a lot of really solid talent.
Absolutely.
And
you usually
those top 5 running backs, the top 4 or 5 tight ends, so linemen again, up the wazoo.
I'll be happy.
Solid.
I'll be happy as a Broncos fan if we can get, you know, a tight end, a running back. I'm happy. I'll be stoked. So and hopefully, I'd like to see a wide receiver. We need a D lineman. We need a linebacker. We could still use another corner. You always draft corners. You just draft them consistently. So excited for the draft. We are like 50. Hold on, I got a vacation reminder for the draft. Scouting Combine is this week. So, again, we'll have some more info and some more data after the Combine. 56 days. 56 days till I'm in Green Bay. So.
All right. Well, we'll do another one of these after free agency, and then we'll do another one literally, you know, the draft starts Thursday night. Pinky usually leaves Wednesday. Are you still leaving Wednesday this year?
Yeah. We get out there around like 3:00 on Wednesday.
So that Tuesday is when we usually do our draft every year that we've always done. Just the one draft. This year we're stepping it up, which I love because Pinky and I talk about this all the time. So it's good to get some of it out, not hold it in anymore.
Well, it also makes us go through and look. Like, I started seeing some names. I was like, I don't think I know those guys.
Sure.
Makes you
I need to go back and do a little bit more research, a little bit more homework.
I need to go find out about those guys.
Absolutely. So that's a positive as well. But our last one will be that Tuesday, right before the draft, 2 days before. So it'll be absolutely fabulous. On that note, welcome, good sir. A pleasure to have you. Final thoughts, Robert.
The anniversary edition of episode 3 has been announced. That's coming April 25th. I'm super excited. The poster is amazing. Like, I saw it today and I cried all over. It was just glorious. It was a beautiful nerd moment. The Oscars are also on Sunday. I don't know.
That's not what happened, Caleb.
It was.
He saw it and he goes, "Oh, I can't wait to go." And I said, "You can't. You're going to Green Bay."
There's another week. It's in the theaters for a week, so I'll be going either way. It will happen. If we're in Green Bay, I will go to a movie theater in Green Bay. I will pay for an Uber to get there.
Which will be fine because he'll be the only one there while everybody else in that town is at the draft. So it'll be money.
Exactly.
They probably won't even make him
Caleb
pay.
gets the nerdness.
Look,
he gets it.
I'm gonna have to break your heart on this one, Robert. You'll see it when you get home because there's not a theater in Green Bay that's gonna have that. I guarantee it.
Oh, there will be.
No,
I will find one.
I mean, you can go. So we're about an hour from Green Bay, and we're an hour from Milwaukee. You could probably go south to Milwaukee and see it, but there's not going to be a theater in Green Bay playing that.
I'll find a way.
You can see it in
Milwaukee. Let him just give his final thoughts, Pinky. The man didn't get a bench tonight. Let him give his final thoughts, and then you can go.
So that's happening, and the Oscars are on Sunday. I'm excited because unexpectedly, my boy Timothée Chalamet won the SGA award, which is a pretty big deal for movies. And he's just getting started.
His speech was
yeah, it was beautiful. And I love him. I respect him. I've loved him in just about every movie he's been in. And Dune 3's coming, so like what can't wait. So loved that, really looking forward to it. I honestly can't say that I am overly proud of the main nominees, but for my movies, horror and sci-fi, they're getting a lot of respect right now in the awards season. So I'm pretty excited with that. So that's really all I gotta say.
Caleb, since Robert came on and started talking nerd, have you watched the Daredevil series?
Ooh. Dude,
you
Netflix, get on it. You've got two before Hollywood was like, hey, we're only gonna make 8 episodes, like 20 episodes a season.
Wait,
of
you
Daredevil.
want me to go watch the CW Daredevil?
No, this is not CW.
No.
This is Netflix Daredevil.
It's on Disney.
But it is on Disney, and it is unrated, and it is not the MCU poppy bullshit.
The one that just came out?
It did not just come out. It did not just come out. It came out years ago. This is when like Punisher was coming out on.
Oh yeah. So wait, are you guys talking about the movie or the series?
The series with Charlie Cox.
So then it was the CW one, right?
It was not CW. It was on Netflix.
CW was DC.
Yes.
Arrow
and yeah. Good call.
All that. This is
for shame.
I will tell you, Caleb, Daredevil from Marvel TV is the best show they've ever put out.
Yes.
Loki's up there. Daredevil.
I've never been a big Daredevil guy. It's hard for me to suspend the disbelief when it comes to that character. Because he doesn't have superpowers other than just being blind and able to. And then some of the things he does with that is like,
Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are amazing in that show. You need to watch it.
Okay, I'll give it some serious thought. Reacher just came out. I got some other things I'm catching up on.
I gotta watch that too.
Reacher's not. I mean, you got a couple weeks before Reacher's all done though, so you know.
Hey, and Pinky. Okay. Did you watch last week's Invincible? You said you were going to keep current, sir.
No, I watched season 1 of Reacher.
You're failing. You made a promise and you're letting down on that promise. I'm not letting it go. You will have 2 episodes.
I promise.
Yes. Caleb, I don't care.
I will catch up before Elimination Chamber, okay? Because I do hope to see you on Saturday.
Yes. Man, I don't know where my belt is. Otherwise, I'd freaking show it out right now just because I'm mad at you.
Thought you had it at the office.
No,
is that a good Chama impression? Am I doing it right?
It is. I brought it home to just purposefully like poke the bear a little bit because Caleb has a belt and I have a belt.
Well, final thought today is easy. First of all, let's give a shout out to the nature boy, Ric Flair. Woo! It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Ric Flair. Love that guy. It is also Bo Nix's birthday. And I don't know how good that one is. It's probably backwards, but it says two. No, it looks good. Bo Nix. I got to meet Bo Nix Wednesday. It was awesome.
You're welcome.
When he signed Two Pinky, I appreciate you, Robert. When he signed Two Pinky, he actually went, "That's not your real name, right?" And I was like, "No, my real name's Aaron." He's like, "Nice to meet you, Aaron." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I told him, I was like, "Hey, we were out in Detroit when you got drafted. We had such a great time. Thank you for making Broncos football fun again." And and then he signed Harmony. I had a draft helmet from Detroit. I got Audric Estime to sign it at training camp, and I was like, "Oh, I'll have Bo Nix sign it." So I have Harmony bring the helmet to get it signed. And of course, Bo Nix, being the nice guy that he is, he personalized every autograph. So now the helmet says "To Harmony, Bo Nix." I was like, I lost my helmet. So that was a bummer, but it was a good time. It was freezing cold. Happy birthday, Bo. Love you, buddy.
Happy birthday, Bo. Bo Lever.
Happy 25th.
Solid. I am absolutely ecstatic because I had Pinky ask ChatGPT today what the next decade outlook was going to be for my Nebraska Huskers. And according to AI, they're returning to prominence. So I don't need to hear anything else. I'm good. But then I asked him to do the same thing for the Broncos, and it literally said basically the exact same thing for the Broncos. So now I don't trust anything the AI says from ChatGPT. On a serious note, man, like we say it all the time, we're going to say it for the next 56 days. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. We got a lot of basketball to talk between now and then. And the tournament is hard for me to say it's not my favorite sporting thing. And
the tournament's
3
weeks away.
One last thing.
So
Michigan State beat Michigan. Let's go!
We're going to be talking a lot of basketball. That's like my first love. And I love this time of year to talk NBA and college and the tourney and everything else. But, God, it's hard not to love free agency and the draft and the combine and everything that the NFL offseason offers, because there's so many possibilities and everything's an option and hope springs eternal. And these next couple of months are just some of my favorite times of the year when it comes to the sports calendar because of all the things that are going on. So Pinky and I are in heaven. Robert's going to learn. We're going to give him even more education, and he's excited to, which makes it even more fun because he wants to be a part of this.
Hey, I asked specifically for things, so there's going to be some things, so it's coming.
We love it. We love his enthusiasm, joining us and being part of the podcast and wanting to get more involved in sports and grow his knowledge and wisdom. And then he gets to, educate us on our nerd fandom that we love, but may not know quite as much about. So it works really well. And then, you pull up a glass, you hang out with us, and everybody has a good time. So
as Thanos said, balanced as all things should be.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. So given all of that and the fact that we appreciate each other as much as we do not take those moments for those that you appreciate to go for granted. Cherish those moments, family, friends, loved ones, inner circle. Find those opportunities, take advantage of them, and do not let them go to waste. That being said, hopefully Pinky has a snapshot of that draft. We'll throw it up on social media. Otherwise, I'll force him to go back and record every pick and write it down, and that'll be really fun for him as well. Till next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're out. We appreciate all of you. Peace.
Cheers.